This play was written by Kathy Plord of Adverb Productions, and she's written a number of plays on social issues, looking to create social change. So one of the ways you can view the performance is just like, it's very unique to have a really great performance about a healthcare issue, and what she's done here is super cool, so I hope that you enjoy it. There's one actor performing multiple roles, and the presentation is about unhealthy relationships, dating violence, and sexual assault, which are prevalent in every community across the country and the world. And people who experience it suffer alone often and don't know where to turn to for help. So this is not a play about all the solutions to every possible problem. This is a play designed to open up a discussion. So we'll see the play and then we'll talk about it as a group for a while afterwards. And we have representatives from sexual assault and dating violence agencies here who will take the stage afterwards and be a resource for you if you have questions. So be thinking as you see the play, what are my questions about this? How am I going to handle this as a bystander? How will I handle it as a clinician? As I said, it's 30 minutes long, will be followed by a discussion. And one thing that I would say is that the way that you handle difficult conversations and difficult issues is to take them seriously, but also sometimes to diffuse a situation with humor. And this playwright is so good that in this play about these very difficult conversations and situations, she has injected some humor. So I've seen productions of it where people are so sort of wound up that they're not able to enjoy the humor, but please do, because it's very clever in some parts, and I would hate for you to miss that part of the problem solving. Anybody have any questions before we start? All good? Thank you for being here on this beautiful sunny day. I would like to now introduce Brian Chamberlain, our actor, performing You the Man by Kathy Plord.
How's everyone doing? Everyone hear me okay? All right, thank you guys for being here. We have so many, standing room only, it's crazy. And hi Kathy, good to see you, checking in from England. Before I start, also thank you to UNE for having me here. Thanks, Chris. And before I start, I sometimes have kind of posed a question for everyone, just if you could do me the honor of just holding it in the back of your mind. Bullying is a big topic nowadays in our schools and in general. And we're all pretty familiar with what bullying is. We've probably had some type of training on that, using different types of means, manipulation, intimidation, holding someone down to make you feel stronger, picking at someone, you know, trying to make them feel worse about themselves to make you feel better. We know the archetypes that we see in movies. You have the mean cheerleaders, you know, picking on someone. You got the big kid that pushes the little kid in the locker and locks him in. And it's kind of where our brain goes. In all these situations, you have someone who doesn't like someone else, and so they start picking on them. And then that person doesn't like this person, and then they don't like each other. And a lot of times there's hate involved. So the question, if you just hold it in your back of your mind, is that definition of bullying still hold true instead of between two people that hate each other, two people that genuinely, honestly, 100% really love each other? Stan the man here to steer you clear, to answer your questions and provide you with suggestions. You got a little lovely, you getting cuddly, you feeling studly, you come to me, my advice is free. Dear Abby's got the get up, Stan the man tells it to you straight up, no setup. Dear Stan the man, I've got a new girlfriend. Well, hey, congratulations. Oh, complications. She's wanting to wait, and I'm wondering how long it'll take. Signed, Andy-ticipation. Well, that's a dandy situation, Mr. Andy-ticipation, and I got a good vibration. You're going to get real good at waiting, so savor the flavor of anticipating. Players, pay attention to the small demonstration for Mr. Andy-ticipation. The word is no. No, I'm not ready. No, because you ain't prepared. Or, Andy's son, the truth might hurt. No, not if you was the last man on earth. Now, in each of these scenarios, she's saying it in stereo with one common denominator, so just slow down your carburetor, dog. She said no. Now, that's the time of day, and I got lots more to say. Now we got the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s out of the way. Send me a letter. We'll see if we can make it all better. Stand the man here to steer you clear. I tell you, the way people talk about sex all the time, you think half the world was getting it daily, right? And it's like in the movies, they kiss, and then bada boom, next instant they're doing it. I mean, come on. It's not like you can pick up a basketball and then be in the NBA. And people keep a score, right? I mean, everybody's waiting for you to kiss and tell. You know, like me, I was a little bit of a late bloomer. You know, back in the day, I get this nickname, Verge. Short for Virgin Larry, yeah, funny. Day in, day out. Hey, Verge, good moves to the ball today. Too bad you can't score in bed like you score on the court. Yo, and if Gator radar is turned on you, buckle up, buddy. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Hey, Verge, if I ever hear you shooting for the other team, you kiss a sorry ass goodbye. Nice. No. I got the first chick in bed that I could. No, it went well. Things were a little premature, but no, I mean that in several ways. But you think it's been easy having the nickname Virgin Larry? Why do some people think that being in a lousy relationship is better than being in no relationship? I mean, why is someone who's supposed to love and care about somebody else regularly and publicly treat them like crap? I mean, why are relationships so complicated? Why am I ranting? Oh, okay. Here's the situation. There's like, 8 or 10 of us hanging out. Jana and John are there. Now, I'm probably more friends with Jana than with John, but I mean, we're just friends. Actually, things have gotten kind of weird between us since they started seeing each other. John seems to think that Jana's his property, and it's just so unlike Jana. Anyway, so she's barely said 2 words this whole time, and then just like offers an opinion about something. Well, John jumps all over her, calling her all kinds of names. Like the nicest thing he said was, "You're an idiot, you don't know nothing." Oh, and then he said, "Why the hell are you wearing those tight jeans that make you look fat?" And I'm looking around to see if anyone's going to say something. It's not happening. Jana looked like she wanted to die, so I had to say something. "John, you're talking crap. Jana, don't put up with this." Well, then John starts jumping all over me. "Hey, Mitchell, what do you think you're doing? Scamming on my woman right in front of my face?" No, dude, not trying to scam. Just don't think you need to be yelling at people, especially your girlfriend. Then a couple others join in saying he's crazy and paranoid. Yeah, he took that well. He wound up storming off, taking Jana with him, but not before laying down offers to rearrange my face or whatever. I don't want to miss some business that isn't mine, but I'm worried about her. And this isn't the first time, too. And if this is how he's treating her in public, what else is going on in private, you know? Part of me keeps saying, it's such a problem, Mitchell, man, mind your own business, but I don't know. I feel like if I don't say something, I'm part of the problem. I need something to drink. I'll be back later. Do you realize everything considered feminine or unmanly, that's everything it takes to be a good father? That word, father. Jana called me Dada, then Daddy, then Dad, and when her mother and I divorced, Michael. No, I don't think she's ever forgiven me for the divorce. You know, it sounds cliche, but your kids do grow up overnight, and I remember I used to say that when Jana got to be of the dating age, that she wouldn't be dating. Now I'm lucky if I even get to meet any of her friends. There's a very independent young woman who lives at the other end of this phone. Jana, hi, it's Michael. How are you? Good. No, I just haven't seen much of you lately. You seem to spend most of your free time with John. Yes, no, I know he's your boyfriend. How are things going with him? See, like most parents in denial about their kids, oh, no. My little girl isn't old enough to be having sex yet. Maybe when she's 40 or 45. Why? Because I I just wanted to know if you both wanted to go somewhere, go to the petting zoo or get some ice cream, or did I really that just happened? We are back with a stack. It's time to find what's on your mind. Dear Stan the Man, if I buy a girl dinner, I want to go home a winner. Any advice? Yo, listen up. I'm not saying it twice. Mr. Unhappy Meal, here's how I feel. Dinner is a date, not a deal, but it's not too late. So just get real. Dear Stan the Man, a friend of mine is in a violent relationship. He's afraid to get help, and he's afraid to leave. How do you help a friend who is gay and not out get out of danger? Heterosexual, bisexual, transgender, gay, lesbian, questioning, whatever orientation, it's a situation wanting liberation. Adjusting. Safety first. Get him through the worst, one step at a time. My advice? Call the local hotline. He needs a personalized plan, not just Stan the Man. Good luck, all right? Stan the Man, I thought it was true love forever, but we broke up. And now I'm being tagged in some embarrassing photos on Facebook. And people have written some ugly things. And still worse, my ex's friends are making it personal, filling up my mailbox with hate mail. Yeah. Today, this bow, this photo, yeah, that's fine, but tomorrow, maybe you gotta redefine the line because someone dropped a psycho on a dime. How can a smile so sweet flip the script, be the creep who can't compete? Virtual friends, virtually impossible to undo, like a tattoo you wish you could redo, or maybe even take back the I love you. Good news, Facebook's got a report abuse policy and procedure. I know, sorry for the hassle. But we all gotta recall, the internet's not a private your space, it's a public chase. Catch yourself a predator, get a stalker's disrespect. It's technology feeding ugly pathology, electronic punches with no apology. Hey, I'm sorry. Remove the tags, maybe take down your site, or rethink photographing how you spend your night. Threats and defamation, take them to the station. Now, y'all know that approximately 73% of all rapes are committed by friends, family members, and acquaintances. About 3/4. And that goes for men and women. Apparently, it's not the stranger in a dark alley we all have to fear as much as we have to fear the smiling faces around us. It's a conversation stopped right there. Well, my name is Officer Friendly, and before y'all say something smart, that is my real name. Now, everywhere I go, there's usually someone in the audience with a story. Same story every audience. He or she will say, "Excuse me, sir, but I know someone whose life was ruined when they were falsely accused of rape by someone else wanting to get revenge." All right. Well, first, let's debunk the myth that millions of wrongfully accused rapists walk the streets. And we'll just start with the fact that there is no statistical difference between falsely reported rapes and falsely reported crimes in general. Only 2% of rapes are found to be falsely reported. More often than not, rapes go unreported. More often than not, rapes go unreported more often than not. Now, why would a rape go unreported? It's a good question, but unfortunately, there's all kinds of reasons. Remember I just told you that approximately 73% of all rapes are committed by someone that victim knows? And then there's always going to be someone that thinks they must ask for it. Now, we all know no one is ever asking to be raped, and blaming the victim isn't a very helpful strategy. As far as falsely claiming rape to get some sort of revenge, I mean, there's much more expedient ways of seeking revenge in a court of law, which I'm going to decline to go into in the interest of keeping us on point. Fall sports in this college include sex, drugs, alcohol, and seeing how many first years you can score before the playoffs. So far, the season's off to a good start. The Virgin Larry has become remarkably smooth, right? I set up the approach. I dodge the defense. I anticipate the side escape and touchdown, 3 points, home run, score! Oh, come on, don't look at me that way, because that's how you tell the story when anybody wants to know. They always do. A buddy of mine, he's probably my best friend, Tom the Terminator, we call him. He's team captain, he's unstoppable on the court. But one time he got in some trouble, right? I mean, this girl said that he raped her. So I asked him, I said, Tom, tell it to me straight. You know, he was hurt, he couldn't believe I was going to take what this girl said over him. You know, and I believe him. If he said he didn't do it, he didn't do it. He's my boy, you know. That girl was sorry she ever brought it up. But a couple weeks ago, Tom said that he had a video for some of the team to watch after practice. He's trying to get into YouTube's 5 Million Club, so he's always bringing in new stuff, but this time he's got a home movie, he calls it. Well, a few minutes into watching it, it's clear this girl, she ain't got no idea she's on candid camera. You know, much less she was going to be on display for some of the basketball team's play-by-play review. She also wasn't all that willing either. I mean, she said stop like a few times, you know, and this was bad, right? I mean, this was like a room full of animals screaming for more, wishing they could have had a turn, you know. Go, Tom, you're the man, you're the man. Yeah, Tom, you're the man. Anyway, a couple days later, that girl found out that she missed the private screening. But see, I'd already forgotten about that girl from before. So I'm wondering if back then I was just believing who I wanted to believe, you know? I just sometimes eat when I'm nervous, so I'll just put these back. Jana studies at the library while John's at work, so I decided to talk to her there, you know, when John won't be around. Jana's at a study table. Jana, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, so I just jump in. Yeah, I just, you know, want to talk to you real quick because I'm kind of worried. She cuts me off. Excuse me, but I'm studying here and I have a lot of work to do. The table over there is free. Okay? Like a minute or so goes by. She gets up, she goes to the water fountain, and on the way back she drops a note next to me. Meet me at the 700 stack in 3 minutes, but don't leave when I do and go a different way. What is this, a James Bond movie? Jana. 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 Oh, hey. What's with this spy meets spy stuff? She says John's friends report to him who she talks to because he's jealous of other guys. No, he's protective that way. In what way isn't he protective? Jana, this is abusive. She says, John's not abusive. He loves me. He never hit me. This type of behavior is abusive. Having his friends track who you talk to is abusive. Just not being able to talk to who you want to. Jana, even if he hasn't hit you, this controlling crap, putting you down in front of other people, that's worse than hitting you because no one can see those marks. Oh, hey, what about the hole in the wall? Yeah, the one he punched next to your head at the party the other night? She was startled. But she defended him. She says he doesn't mean it. He's getting better. He always feels terrible afterwards. That I don't know how tender and loving and generous he can be. Yeah, she's got a point. Jenna, I'm sure he's got his good points. I mean, everybody does. She asked me, what do I want? Because she has to go now. What I want? I just want to know you're okay, safe. She says she's fine. She says she's leaving now, and if I'm that concerned for her, I won't make it worse. And she left. Great. So she knows it can get worse. Great. Dear Stan the Man, what if a guy and a girl are both drinking and they have sex? Later, she says she hadn't wanted to, but was too messed up to be able to say stop. I say that she was drinking and shouldn't have been drunk if she didn't want to fool around, but my friend Joe says that's rape. Thanks for steering us clear. No problem, dog. That's why I'm here. So your friend Joe thinks if a girl gets dressed up and then is too messed up, that's rape? It's no great debate. Your friend Joe knows which way the wind blows, what the rules are. This we were both drinking thinking. Ooh, that is a trap not getting you far. I mean, you drunk driving. It's a matter of fact, it's who's driving the car sits behind the bars, not your friend passed out inside you took for a ride. It's a tragedy if you ain't capable of sympathy, don't know empathy, can't just imagine being in someone else's skin. It's time you stepped in. Imagine this. Imagine your sister or your mother, one good friend or another. Maybe you on the telephone, maybe you're both alone. Okay, now. And she says she's got something important to say. She's seeing shades of gray. She needs you to listen and not go away. You hear her fear, and she's got your ear. Now, she's got a friend, real, charming, and smart, who's been after her heart. Then she tells you something bad happened. She thinks that maybe she had a little too much to drink, or maybe she had nothing to drink but a Pepsi. Then she tells you they were getting a little friendly. Cut to where she's saying no. She pushes his hand away. He tries again anyway. She says no, number 2. Now what's he going to do? And this time, as he's crossing the line, she stays real quiet and still. So he thinks he's got a green light to cruise down this hill. He's not slow and he keeps going. She already said no, no, no. But all that's in his head is go, go, go. Doctor's analysis, she's got paralysis. She can only watch it. She can't stop it. I mean, this is making war, dog, not love. I can't tell you more. G is for green, G is for go, but the G is silent, and that's enough. I mean, this is your sister or your friend, and yeah, I'll end. Removing illusions, avoiding confusions, empathy like sympathy, only better. Stan the Man, thanks for the letter. No, it doesn't make me happy that Jana hasn't confided in you either. Look, can we please put our own issues aside and focus on Jana? Look, I will call you as soon as I talk to her. Yes, I'm calling her now. Bye. I know, me too. I mean, weeks go by without her mother and I hardly seeing her. How could we know? I didn't see it myself. I have to have one of Jana's friends tell me what's going on. My job is to take care of my daughter, to protect her. See, what I don't understand is how it got to this point. I mean, how did Jana get herself in this position to begin with? Because I didn't realize that I let her down. Or that I could hurt this much. Just got to get out of this. Jana hides. It's your father. Is this a good time? We need to talk. Now you think if someone's been raped, they know it, right? Sadly, it's not as simple as it sounds. Oftentimes, rapes are unrecognized by the victim as rape because of alcohol or drug use, or because they've been raped by someone that they've previously been intimate with. Now, frankly, there's no mention in the U.S. Constitution of the right to have sex with someone who's unwilling, even if they are married or dating. You know, people usually want to know why I do this. All right, I mean, what kind of person in their right mind would stand up in front of crowds of folks and start dishing up facts and statistics about sexual assault? Well, the People magazine or the reality TV mentality would have me tell you that my sister was raped and killed. And because of that, I made it my mission to go out and spread the word. Or it could be that there is some young transgendered person here in this area who'd been harassed by some hateful, narrow-minded folk, and I'm coming to the legal rescue. Or it could be that the local police department was tipped off about a certain someone who's been trying to drop date rape drugs at parties. Now, some of that, all of that, or none of that could be why I do this. But not one of us, now myself included, have to wait for the excuse of something terrible happening before we just act like we care. Basketball, right? It was a great analogy for life, but see, in a game, there's boundaries, there's rules, there's referees. You know, in life, half the time, I just think guys are waiting for the ref to blow a whistle on a foul, and then there's no whistle, so they keep going. This time I wasn't even on the court, I was just watching from the sidelines. And there was no whistle, just a call from the athletic director. The girl from Tom's Home movie went to the police. The school's reviewing the whole situation, possible expulsions for anybody that was there, or they may just revoke our athletic scholarships. Yeah, Tom the Terminator lived up to his name. But me, I did nothing. I did nothing. I did nothing to stop it. So, I wanted to say that I'm your father, and I would do anything to have you be happy. I know I can't live your life for you, that you need to make your own choices, but even if you are all grown up, you're not alone. If you ever need me to listen, I will. I will always love you. I will always trust you. I will not judge you. Just let me in. That's what I wanted to say. But unfortunately, like some parents, what I actually said was, "Damn it, Jana, why didn't you tell me?" I called the local hotline. I told them my name was Horatio Sebastian Guadalupe Smith Jones. I don't know, something I made up. But they immediately told me that it was an anonymous, confidential call and that I didn't need to worry. So anyway, I told them Jana's situation, and they just walked me through her risk analysis. The list of what happens if she stays is essentially the same list of what happens if she leaves. So she may have loss of friends, loss of intimacy. She could have some trouble at home or work. and she might get hurt. But the bad news is that Jana is in most physical danger when she decides to leave. So if she calls the hotline, they can help her set up a safety plan for herself. I just called the hotline because I wanted some answers. And, you know, it was good to hear that I've been doing things right, but there's no quick fix. You're probably wondering how I got to be so smart. Why I play this part, how I got this attitude. All right, I'll give you a clue. I watched my father beat my mother, and then he would drag her into the bedroom. My mother couldn't leave him, and she couldn't press charges. The cops stopped coming. My father is yelling, my mother is screaming, then silence. I'm relieved. But there's no telling if my mom was crying that time I was conceived. Now, if this were your sister, your mother, your brother, your friend, you'd all want justice to the fullest extent of the law, and you'd all want them to go and talk to somebody. So if it is ever you, or it has ever been you, please, go get the help you deserve. No, you are not alone, and there are good people that want to listen to you. Now, do it for yourself. And if you can't do it for that, do it so there won't be that next victim. I did nothing to stop it. I didn't think about leaving, and I didn't tell anybody. So that means I'm not an innocent bystander. You know, maybe if I would have got up and left, then maybe others would have too, and it would have just been Tom standing there wondering what he should have done differently. I need help keeping my daughter safe. So who will help me? Please. All I can do is stand up when something isn't right. And I can listen to Jana, not judge, and just give her time. In this time, in my words and my rhyme, I've shed some light on what's wrong and what's right. It's time for the violence to end, and it starts with you and your friends. But staying the man can't hold your hand. You the man. Ladies too. Now what y'all gonna do? Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your attention. We're going to do a little stage move here and bring our panelists up to the stage. I know that at 1 o'clock some folks will have to leave, so if you just do that quietly and discreetly, we'll keep our conversation going beyond that as long as people have questions. That was fairly intense. Hopefully a good place to start a conversation. I'm going to ask our panelists to get us started by sharing a reflection on what it was like for you to see the show, what it brought up for you.
It isn't? Okay. First off, I should say my name is Dan Kipp. I'm an educator and an advocate at the Young Adult Abuse Prevention Program, also called YAP. Who's ever heard of YAP? Okay, we'll get more on that later. Just like my first reaction, I guess, part of what I do at YAP is I put on a skit as well about teen dating abuse. And so one, I just gotta appreciate just how amazing a job you just did, playing like 5 different characters, yeah. So I appreciate that side of it, but also when I heard the title, I had never seen this play. I thought it was gonna be like You the Man. I thought it was gonna be a lot of stereotypes and like all the worst male stereotypes. So for me watching this, it was like really encouraging knowing that everyone on this stage cared about people who are going through a really tough time, whether it was sexual assault or dating and violence. And so I was kind of happily surprised to see that portrayed. Thank you.
Cool, yeah, thanks, man. Even though you're competition.
So my name is May Emline. I work at Sexual Assault Response Services of Southern Maine as an educator, and very similar to what Dan does, just with talking about sexual assault. One thing, well, I do want to echo Dan and say it was a really fantastic performance, really powerful. And one thing that really stuck out to me was all of the bystanders, and that we all are part of this, and we all play a role in either helping someone, supporting someone, standing up and saying something. We're all part of this picture, and I think that all of the characters did a really, really good job portraying that, and that was also speaks to you as well in your portrayal of those characters.
Thanks. My name is Ann Barton, and I'm here representing counseling services here at UNE, down across campus here in Lower Ginn. Just here to let you guys know that seeing a presentation like this can be really overwhelming and difficult at times, and if anybody wants to come and see us, we're always available over there for you as well. But I'm also here to contribute to the conversation about things that we see and what we recognize as issues on campus and really everywhere. So.
Thank you all for being here in the middle of the workday to answer questions for us. So I turn the lens back to you. What was it like? What are your responses? And I'm going to run toward you with the microphone if you have a question or something to say, because we are live streaming. We want to capture your comments. Did you learn something new? Our work is done. This is where you get to see me exercise. There's only 2 microphones.
Yay to the brave first.
I usually always am. So you did a great job about doing like Stan the Man and all this stuff, but do you think that that's actually reflected in real life? This is a weird kind of question, but I mean, there are lots of resources and stuff, and like you talked about Verge, Larry, or whatever, how he like didn't do anything. I feel like our culture today is still big on like shaming and not listening and stuff like that. So I guess like, do you think that this is a good reflection of reality?
I think there are definitely parts that I relate to, and I think there are parts that probably other people don't, but that they do that I may not. But I think through the history of doing this, it's just it's really about just getting the get conversations going, and theater itself doesn't have to be. I could stand up here and preach, and be very real, but this way we just can kind of hit a lot of different angles without really pointing anything specifically out. So yeah, I try to make it kind of real, but it's yeah. That was okay.
Ann, did you have something you wanted to say? Does it seem realistic? Like, are the scenarios realistic?
Well, as far as the situations and the scenarios go, I think, yeah, they are very realistic. And the point being sort of to listen and to speak up for people and to speak to people that you are concerned about, whether they be patients or friends or family members, because it is often a very difficult subject to discuss. And we do see a lot of it in the counseling services. So I know it's not something that doesn't touch most of our lives in one way or another. One point that I thought occurred to me while I was watching was that it was very, the presentation, not to be critical, but it was a very gender-based presentation, and I do just want to point out that men are also victims of sexual assault and physical abuse, and speaking of shame, as you did, it can often be much more difficult for a man to step forward and admit that that's going on too in his life. So, so that's an important point to think about as well.
Yeah, I just kind of on a panel the other week, because now there's new research out, and it was kind of about 1 in 5 women, 1 in 5 men too are going to have some type of thing, but there's new research kind of saying more like 1 out of 2. Am I right in that new thing coming out?
I haven't heard that, but
That's going to have some type of something. But then also I was talking to a guy that works with men that have to be in therapy, court-mandated therapy for abuse, and he said that actually the biggest percentage is men perpetrating on men and then men perpetrating on women. Not to say there's not a lot of men perpetrating on women, but that it's pretty neck and neck, you know? So it's definitely something for us all to think about. I mean, I think the big point of this show is if we leave with anything, it's where to go next and talk about it, and we just as a society need to just start just talking about it more, because there are many people here that it's affected.
That's a great point. I would also say women also can perpetrate. So it's important
Correct.
to recognize that too, and the
Absolutely.
stigma associated with a man or a woman coming forward and saying that the female is the perpetrator. The other thing that I was reflecting on about the gender piece is that this is all men, you the man. And I'm thinking about, I'm sure people have seen the promos on television with the governor with domestic violence, and it's all men speaking up. And obviously the importance of that is it's men who are speaking up. And it also makes me think about the power and why is it that it has to be men who speak up. Not that women don't speak up, but somehow we listen differently, or we're supposed to listen differently when it's men who are speaking up. And it's just something I want to put out there for us to consider as a society. I think it's great that men are speaking up. Kudos, absolutely, needs to happen. I just think it's another reflection, though, of our society that men have that power, and it's not until the men speak up that we begin to talk about this in these settings.
And each of you, as you serve your patients and clients, may find yourself in a situation where you're hearing something. And are you willing to listen to it regardless of the source? Is it a man? Is it a woman?
Yeah, I think that was a great reality to bring up. It sucks that that is the case, but I think it is a reality if you hear a man saying something. And so it's ironic that I'm the one speaking now, talking about this. But it's like this weird sort of paradox, right? Like, you're talking about power. When we're talking about men's violence against women, it comes from this idea that I think a lot of men get from a lot of different places. We could talk all about that, but that they are supposed to have power, that they are supposed to have control. So it becomes this weird paradox when guys start to speak up in support of victims and against perpetration, using that power that is the cause of the stuff in the first place, but like also for it's very, very intricate.
So from a medical perspective or social work, I'm considering if we're talking to a patient and we recognize that they're in an unsafe position, what realistic protective measures can they take if they decide to leave? Because my worst fear would be that you suggest, we think that this is a really unsafe position, you should consider getting out of this, and then what's the follow-up? Because I would hate for them to leave and have the person retaliate, and I feel like that's the most vulnerable time, but from my perspective, I really don't know what is a realistic approach of what protection's available. Realistically, I don't think you can have a police officer with them all the time, so what protection is there that I can tell them and feel confident telling them that they can realistically get?
So if you're, it might actually be a question for Dan if he's talking about dating abuse, but in that situation, you would want to maybe think about like what other resources can you refer that person to. So if you don't feel like you can help create a safety plan for that person, that's where SARSM and Family Crisis Services would be, or depending on where you are, a sexual assault and domestic violence agency in the area, you can refer that person and say, you know, here is an organization that can work with you to help create that safety plan. And then it's not all on you. And, you know, as a healthcare provider, you're going to encounter these issues, but you also have to take into account that you don't necessarily have to be everything to everyone, and that there are really great community resources who are there to support you in your efforts to make sure that everyone is in like a safe place and is feeling okay. So that would be one option. And then, you know, in that meantime, be a good advocate for that person and listen, and make sure that you're giving them as many options as you possibly can. And then also another part of it is that, you know, if you're a mandated reporter, that's a piece of it as well. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
I think one of the key phrases in the play is empathy, like sympathy, only better, right? Sympathy, you want to take them home, you want to keep them safe, but if you're practicing empathy, then you are connecting them to the resources that can then empower them in their situation. Other questions? I could go to the other side of the room.
Okay, wow, I've never used a microphone before. So I'm working at Caring Unlimited for my field placement, and for those of you who don't know, Caring Unlimited is the Domestic Violence Resource Center serving York County. And many of the conversations I've had through working there and with other friends is how to invite men into the conversation. I do agree that men do hold a lot of power, and when they do speak, we tend to listen better. But when I, you know, speak to them and have these conversations, they usually are very confused, or they ask, you know, well, what am I supposed to do about it? What can I do to help? And, you know, you say things and sometimes it doesn't get through, and what resources or what would be the best way to invite them into these conversations and to get them involved in the best way possible so change can happen. I'll just hold this. Oh.
Just everyone's looking at me. Ways to invite men to step up, yeah? Well, I think, it's kind of, just to kind of counterpoint the last, you know, the bit of we only listen if a man talks. I think one of the biggest things is having men talk, and having myself up here playing 5 different guys, even though I can do a really swell lady. You know, saying that it's okay. I played baseball in college, and it's like if it becomes more in our society for guys to actually be in a locker room and just be like, you know, be your 40-year-old self and be like, yeah, that's stupid. Don't, you know what I mean? Don't, just messing around. So I think just inviting more men to say it's not cool to not be involved, you know, to just think it's a woman's problem. It's not me, it's not them, but just.
Well, one thing that I will say is that in inviting people to have this conversation about dating abuse and sexual assault, it can be really important to frame the issue as an issue that affects everyone. It's not just a victim that is impacted by it. It's it's an issue that affects an entire culture. And so if you can kind of frame it in those issues, it's not like a women's issue, it's a people issue, it's an everyone issue. And I think it's really important to keep reiterating that and keep reminding people of that, because it impacts everyone. I mean, probably there are a lot of people in this room who know somebody, or, you know, it comes up a lot. So that's just something that I will throw out there as a way to continue to engage everyone in having this conversation.
And I think May is absolutely right in trying to frame it as a community-wide issue that engages everyone, regardless of gender, sexuality, race, all that stuff. If you want some expedient means for getting guys involved in the conversation, one is saying actually what we've been talking about this whole time, framing it as guys not as the problem, but the solution. And again, it's that weird paradox where it's like, but you are the problem, and giving that space is part of the, okay. But when you frame it as like, you're part of the solution here instead of part of the problem, then guys aren't getting defensive. Then they're not shutting down, then they're starting to listen to the issue more. And as much, I think if you can get the guys to buy in on that community-wide issue approach, great. Another expedient means is exactly what we did in the play. You know, think of someone you love. Think of a mother, sister, brother, someone who it would personally affect and personalize it for them. That's a way to get them to start caring a lot harder with their heart. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
This is where the real conversation starts, right? It's just us now.
Lock the doors.
I know we have someone doing a rotation at Caring Unlimited. You're all learning something about this over the course of your training. Do you want to talk about what you know? What have you learned so far about when you're sitting down with a client? What will you do?
I am doing my field placement with Maine Children's Home, which is working in the teen parent program. But I guess I'm speaking more from what I do as my real job, which is an advocate for the sexual assault services in Kennebec and Somerset counties. And one of the biggest things that I find and I've worked with thousands of victims. I've been doing this for 11 years. So one of the things that I find is to listen. Is that person isn't there to be judged. Sometimes they might not even really want your help. They just want you to listen. They want your support. They want to know that they're still a person, even though they've been through this, horrendous violence, whether it be abuse, assault, or any of that. And we work with victims, from the youngest, from babies all the way up to 90 years old. So, we just run into a lot of situations where, again, they may not seem to want your help. The victims may not seem to want your help, but it's more about the support and trying to provide a support system for that person so they always have someone to turn to so they're able to work through what's going on. Because I can tell you one thing, and I hate hearing it from people, is when someone tells you to get over it. You don't get over it, you get through it, you don't get over it.
Thank you. That reminds me that there's more than one set of constituencies, right? Whether you're hearing from a male or a female or a transgendered person, whether you're seeing it and hearing it from a child or an elder, and abuse can happen between family members. And from a personal experience of mine, my aunt and uncle were being actively physically abused by one of their children, and when it came time to place a protection order, there was no place to check who is your abuser, right? Is it your husband? Is it your wife? There's no place to check my child. It was hard. It was hard for them to get through for that reason. Anybody want to reflect on her comments about listening?
That's what we do. We listen in counseling services. So, and as you students of social work know, listening is key. But I think to the other healthcare professionals, listening to what your patients have to say, looking for signs of abuse, and asking the questions that are hard to ask. We don't sometimes want to know the answer. But asking those questions, you may be the link that provides that person with the care that they need to resolve a really difficult, sometimes life-threatening situation.
I'm going to echo the listening part. It's super important. But the other thing that I will say is if someone ever discloses to you, it's also really important to let them know that it's not their fault that it happened, because we live in a world where there are a lot of messages blaming victims for what's happened, whether that's in a relationship or whether they're a victim of sexual assault. So again, it's just important to be empathetic.
I just want to say that I think that it's great that we have, all of the services that can kind of follow up with folks once something happens. But I also want to just kind of applaud Family Crisis Services and the sexual assault centers for their education with kids, because I think that that proactive piece is just so important. And the more that we can inform kids on what healthy relationships are, what healthy boundaries are, that hopefully, we can start to see a decrease in sexual assaults and domestic violence incidences, and not have to kind of pick up those pieces. So I just think that we really need to continue to focus on our youth in that kind of crucial piece of things.
I just want to reflect on what you said, because I think it's so important as a provider and as a loved one in your response to someone, in particular the father's response to his daughter. And maybe you can speak to that a little bit and how to go about being there for a loved one.
Well, we can all sort of chime in. Yes, initial responses are so important, because maybe you are the first person that someone is disclosing an instance of dating abuse or sexual assault, and so how you react in that moment is really important. But there are just some things that you can kind of have in your back pocket, saying like, I'm so sorry that this happened. Thank you so much for telling me, acknowledging how challenging it is to disclose that information. And again, saying, it's not your fault, kind of reaffirming that. And those are just some things that you can just have in the back of your mind, and it can be really challenging in those situations to know what to say. And so I want to acknowledge that. Because, maybe someone discloses and we haven't thought about what we would say in that situation, but now's a good time to sort of think about that. But even just something as simple as, I'm so sorry this happened, thank you for telling me.
Yeah, those first responses. And you saw it in the play, and the dad is like, he wanted to say all these really caring, supporting, loving, and probably helpful things. What he actually said probably wasn't that helpful, right? And those are like those first reactions that are very human to us, that when someone that we love is going through this stuff, like, yeah, our emotions are gonna get going. But if you want to be helpful, sometimes you gotta check that first impulse. Sometimes you gotta reflect on the things that were said in this room today, and put on your good advocate hat and go back to that really just really helpful place. Sometimes, yeah, we have to check our impulses if we're gonna be helpful.
So one last thing I will say is that the crisis and support lines that SARSM has and that Family Crisis Services has, it's not just for victims. So if someone ever discloses to you and you have that rush of emotions and you feel like you need to sort of talk it through, you can always give us a call too. And same thing goes for the counseling center, I would assume. So that resource is for everyone who needs any type of support.
Yeah, it's important not to think of it like 911. It's just a place to call. So it doesn't have to be an emergency.
So I had a question about what to do in a situation where somebody who has been involved in domestic violence. You're pretty sure that something's going on, but they're sort of riding down the Nile River, being in denial and saying, oh, there's nothing going on here, but that there is. What do you do in a situation like that where you're so helpless and you don't know what to do, and they're also not trying to help themselves? Because that can be really frustrating.
You put on your red cape and you swoop in and you save the day. It's that simple, right? Yeah. And that is a really common reaction for people to have, that whole denial, or not even identifying what they're going through as abuse. And we saw it in the skit. It's a great skit. It's got a great script because it's pointing out all these realities. People, if they're not getting hit, they don't think it's abuse a lot of the times. And I'm sure there's a lot of the same sort of misgivings about, well, was it sexual assault or was I just drunk? That whole victim blaming piece coming back into this. So as a friend, seeing that, it can be super, super frustrating. You have that outside perspective. You're seeing the whole forest. They're only seeing the trees. And you want to show them the rest of the forest and how many other beautiful trees there are out there. But they don't have that perspective. And so that's something to keep in mind when you're trying to be there for your friend. The stat that we use is 7 makeup breakups. Makeup, breakup, makeup, breakup, makeup, breakup, before that person is ever finally able to leave for good. And so you could be that person's friend sitting there through all of that being like, what is wrong with you? Why don't you just leave this person, right? But as much as you can, calm those emotions down, just be there for that person through the whole thing. Wish I had more for you.
We're all very sane without love. But when love gets involved, you said these people, they don't hate each other. In a lot of situations, they're in love. It's just a terrible relationship. But if they're not getting, their arm broken and hit in the face, but it's just being, just checking on them all the time and having the friends check on them and there's a guy who's a cop around here, has all of his buddies, not around here, but in New England, has all of his cop buddies check on his wife to find out where she is. So they always radio, she's going to the store, she's doing this. So at all levels, it's happening. We all just need to know that that's not cool. And we need to remember that don't just go right to, super violent rape. Lots of steps of abuse that we all need to always be thinking about. In our own thing, I say this every time in every panel, but when I was rehearsing the show, I'd go home and I'd be like to my wife, I'm nice, right? I'm supportive because you're just thinking I know I don't hit you, I know I don't yell at you, I know let's say I love you and stuff, but you got to check in on those little things of just always being more supportive. It's good for us all to check in on our own behavior.
I'm just adding a plug for you guys, though, to answer your question. If you really feel like you're in a position where you know something and your friend is not addressing it, that's what these hotlines are for. It's like he was saying, it's not a 911 number. It's a number that you can call and get the information that you need to help you. Oh.
Hi, so I loved everything that you guys are saying, especially about the listening and everything. I actually was a peer educator about this topic also when I was in college or in undergrad. But another thing that they also emphasized for us was that it's a loss of power for sexual assault victims, domestic violence victims. And I think it should be emphasized or mentioned that when you're trying to help a friend, it's our instinct to just say, do you want me to call the cops? I'm gonna call the cops for you right now. Or do you want me to do this right now? I'm just gonna do it because you just wanna be that hero. And we need to take that next step where we say, hey, this isn't about me and what I wanna do to be that hero. It's about this person. What does she wanna do or he wanna do to make this better? And I think that's just something, I mentioned, what do you guys think about that?
Thank you so much for bringing that up, because when we're talking about a sexual assault, we're really talking about somebody abusing power that they have over another person. That's why a sexual assault occurs, not because of all of those stereotypes that are out there, but because somebody's abused their power. And so, yes, when we're thinking about how to support somebody who has been assaulted, we are really thinking about how can we empower that person. And so part of that is letting them know all of their options and letting them make that choice, because they've had their power stripped from them. And so as a friend, as someone who's supporting them, you want to be able to give as much of that power back to them as you possibly can. And so part of that is letting them make those choices. And maybe they're not going to make the choice that you want them to make. Maybe you really want them to report to the police, and maybe that's not something that they want to do. And being okay with letting them make that choice for themselves is helping to empower them. Just as long as they know what their options are, and you can help them, let them know what that might be.
Only thing I would add to that, because that was great, and thank you again for bringing this up. We said listen, believe, be there, empower. That's the top 4? I don't know. Yeah, definitely the top things to do. And there was someone in the crowd who said, you're talking about trauma and just get over trauma. I think we think if you get over something, then you've conquered it, right? You got power over it, you're re-empowered. But getting over something, having someone get over something is a lot different than, like you said, getting through something. Letting someone make their own decisions throughout that whole process. That's the process, that's the getting through something, that's the hard work. that it's going to take someone to start to feel that power in themselves. And if you allow that person, you permit or just like facilitate that person going through that process, their own process, that's empowering. Absolutely. Anything else you have to say?
Anybody else have any questions? We have a question.
I'm doing my internship at Safe Voices in Androscoggin, Oxford, and Franklin County. And I have a dual role there. I'm doing the hotline, which is when people have questions, they call the 800 number. And we're just there to listen, put them in contact with resources that they may not know exist. And if they're in immediate danger, we call 911 for them if they're afraid to for some reason. My other part is something I'm not comfortable with, which is working on the Batterers Intervention Program, which is working with men and women who were charged with domestic violence. And the people I work with are very lenient towards the perpetrators. And sometimes you just want to say, that's not okay. It's not right for someone to treat someone else like that. And you said that it's a man problem. It's like most crimes. The people that perpetrate is a small portion of the male population. What we need is the non-perpetrating male part of the population to stand up and say no.
Amen.
Thank you. It occurs to me, for those of you who are still in the room, maybe you don't have any place else to go, but maybe you're really interested in this. I would say that as healthcare providers, regardless of what your profession is, you can be, if you have the heart for this kind of work, you can be the expert in your practice. You can be the expert in the hospital. You can be the person who helps connect other providers with resources when they have clients they have questions about, and that is, it's very much needed. And so if you're interested in this, I know some of you are doing your rotations in this, and I wanted to give our panelists a chance to talk about how do you get involved, because I know that you can become someone who answers that hotline.
I can start really quickly. Yeah, we have the hotline as well. We've been mentioning. I assume everyone in here is over 18. Yeah. Okay. Cool. If you're over 18, you can take our 40+ hour hotline training. And actually, if you get in contact with me, just come on up after this whole panel thing is over. I can give you the email name for the person who runs that. Yeah, it's that simple. Just sign up, and we'd love to have you help out on the hotline.
Our training is essentially the same thing, 40 hours, sexual assault advocate training. There's kind of 2 levels to it, so you could just be someone who answers the telephone line, and you can sign up for a different number of shifts, and you can answer the phone from the comfort of your own home. You don't need to go anywhere. There's also a level 2 training if there's anyone who's interested in doing hospital accompaniments to victims for forensic evidence kits. We do have a training coming up in October, end of October, November, but then we also do individual one-on-one training as well if there's some scheduling issues. But I have that information too, so at the end, please feel free to come up and we can chat about it, and I can give you that contact information.
Anybody else? Can we give our panel and our actor a big round of applause?
I guess just one I'm still wired. Like wherever you guys are going to be working or whatever too, like I've heard other things like this where folks have, made sure that there are hotline cards in the restrooms. Because it may happen if there's going to be an examination room, that may be the only chance that someone has had to get away from their partner. So they may use that opportunity to say something, which you probably already know, but be ready for that and have something may not be a card, but have a game plan ready for that, and it may help too in a restroom or something like that. It might be a safe haven.
Thank you. I hope you'll join us on the 28th at noon, same place, same time, with the Social Work Student Association has put together a set of activities for people to work on interprofessionally, solving these problems. What do I do as a practitioner? What is my right? What are my rights? What are my responsibilities? What are the things I can say that will help people on their road? So please join us on the 28th and have a fantastic day.